Roll call, please.
Mr. Fitzpatrick? Mrs. Lynn? Here. Mrs. Guerrero-Numer?
Here.
Dr. Huntington?
Here.
Mr. Coffey? Mrs. Stiff?
Present.
Mr. Kennedy?
Here. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and our ROTC.
Color guard, halt. Inward, face. Post. Place. Colors. Freeze then. Arms.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order. Arms. Outward, face. Forward, march.
may be seated. Again, huge thanks to our JROTC. They always do a fantastic job. At this time, we would like to welcome all of our visitors in person, as we see we have many, and anyone watching online. Before we get to the consent agenda, I do want to ask everyone to take a moment of silence to reflect on the passing of one of our teachers, Marie Ryan. I had the privilege of working with her when I worked at Central, and she was a very, very dedicated staff member. So if we could just take a moment to remember her contribution. Thank you. Do we have any public comment on any agenda item? All right, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve or amend?
Make a motion to amend, remove the Hopewell check from the check register and vote separately.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Mrs. Stiff?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mrs. Lynn?
Yes.
Mrs. Guerrero-Numer?
Yes.
Dr. Huntington?
Yes.
Motion passes. Do we have a motion to approve the rest?
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Stiff?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mrs. Lynn?
Yes.
Mrs. Guerrero-Numer?
Yes.
Dr. Huntington?
Abstain.
All right, motion passes. Move on to recognition and awards. I'll turn over to Dr. Guzman.
Sure. It's so nice to see everybody coming out tonight. I know it's a little cold out there, but I would like to invite Dr. Markham and Mr. Locke to begin our recognition this evening.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Steve Locke. I'm the building operation.
No, it's not on yet. Green means go.
It's kind of an inside joke. It happens to me every time, so I apologize. So my name is Steve Locke. I am the building operations assistant principal at Joliet Central High School, and I have the privilege tonight to introduce Joliet Central students who completed the Teen CERT certification training in partnership with Joliet, the city of Joliet, in particular, John Lukenzik, and then the Joliet Fire Department, who also assists in that. So a little background on CERT. It is a national program of volunteers trained in disaster relief and emergency response. These students completed roughly 30 hours of training outside of school hours between September and December during the first semester of 2025. Some of the training that they receive is PPE equipment, disaster preparedness, and disaster medical operations, just to name a few. We are lucky enough, with the help of the Joliet Fire Department and Mr. Lukenzik, they are also offering continuing education for all the kids who have completed the training for a CPR certification class on February 28th at Station 1 Joliet Fire Department. So they are all welcome, and we are going to ask all the students who participate this semester to attend that as well. So it's a really great opportunity, and we thank John and the Joliet Fire Department for working with us and specifically our students. When I call off the names, would you want them to come up here? Okay. So when I call your name from Joliet Central, if you wouldn't mind, please coming up here, and Ms. Schlishman will direct you where to stand. Beatrice Campa. Layla Chandler. Monica Delgado. Daisy Heredia. Brianna Hernandez. Fernanda Martinez. Rihanna Ross. And Jasmine Tenna. Mr. Markham, I'm going to turn this off for you, so turn it back on.
Do you want to do the pictures separate or together?
Whatever you want.
We can do them.
Central, West.
Sure. Do we want any of our adults in there?
We absolutely can. If our CERT volunteers.
Come on up.
Come on up.
Hi, John.
John, why don't you get on the side with me? There you go. Love it. That's such a good picture. 1, 2, 3. And any parents or family members that would like to come up, you may come up and take a picture. Don't be shy.
Wait, you gotta stay.
Now we gotta stay here.
I gotta get back
Our team leader was late. Our team captain was late.
Just in time.
Okay, there we go.
Okay.
So, before I introduce the students from West Campus, I did want to invite John Lukansik up here because he really does a lot of the work to make this program go and provide this opportunity to our students. So I just wanted to invite him up here in case he wanted to share any information about the program.
Thank you. And green means it's on.
Yes, you're on.
All right, we're on. I just wanted to thank the staff and the school board for allowing us to bring this into Joliet Township High Schools. I have to say, this is not an easy curriculum. There's a lot to this, almost 30 hours of education, and they absolutely showed enthusiasm the entire time. They showed teamwork the entire time. They started out, a bunch of them, as strangers, and they all started working as a team, and that's exactly the way this is supposed to go. So I'm hoping that our central group and our west group start to get together, and we can all work as a great big team as we can continue on here. So I thank you very much for allowing me to do this, and we start again with Joliet West tomorrow with a new group. And our graduates are always welcome to come back to our classes. If you want to help teach, if you want to refresh, you can do that. But we encourage you guys to come back whenever you want to be part of this program. You're part of the CERT family now. So thank you all very much.
All right, so from the West Campus, if you're here, please come up for the picture. Marlene Arroyo. Addison Atalano. Leali Carranza. Caitlin McDonald. Melina Martinez. Julia Mucha. Landon Slaybaugh. Lila Thorstad. And Aaliyah Wright.
Any family members? Anybody else? Congratulations.
Can we get a picture of all the students together, West and Central?
Come on down. Absolutely. Okay, so if you're taller, the window in the back there.
Guys are all teammates now. Joliet Township teammates.
And girl power. I'm just gonna say. Thank you. Continuing on with our recognition, I would like to invite Chris McGuffey up. We have some additional recognition to do.
Good evening. My name is Chris McGuffey. I'm the CTE Curriculum Director here at Joliet Township, so I oversee a lot of our career programs. Tonight is my privilege to highlight an innovative partnership between Joliet Township High School and the Joliet Fire Department, one that perfectly illustrates the power of authentic service-based learning. Recently, our electronics and robotics students at both Joliet West High School and Joliet Central accepted a unique challenge to bring 2 retired robot ambassadors back to life. These robots, Freddie the fire truck and Andy the ambulance, have been out of commission and collecting dust since the early 2000s. Under the guidance of our dedicated staff and instructors, students at both campuses applied advanced technological skills to diagnose complex mechanical issues and repair their sneaky electrical faults and replace some fuses. So at Joliet West, students fully restored Freddie and his movement, his lights, his voice box, while also engaging with community as they posted their progress on social media. At Joliet Central, students were engaged with their problem solving on Andy's voice box, his eye mechanisms, and his water squirting mechanism. Because of their work, we've returned approximately $20,000 worth of revitalized equipment to Joliet Fire Department. Freddie and Andy are now back on active duty, ready to teach fire safety to our children at parades and school visits across the city. I'd like to now invite our students from both Joliet Central and Joliet West forward for that recognition. And that would include from Joliet West campus, who worked on Freddie the fire truck. That would be Nicholas Hicks. And Jose Zamudio. From Joliet Central High School, we had working on Andy the ambulance, Christian Torres. Jeremy Martinez Zapat. Javier Barrios. And finally, Greg Rosman. This project would not be made possible without the adults who also facilitated this opportunity, so I really want to offer a warm welcome to our instructors, Joliet West High School instructor John Barber. If you'd come up too, please. And Joliet Central High School, Nicole Gubbins. And of course, the fire department. I know Chief Battalion Tim Chaplin was a part of it, as well as Eric Clem from the ambulance.
Thank you from the bottom of our hearts from the Joliet Fire Department. Freddie and Andy were a very integral part of Pub Ed program in the late 1990s, early 2000s, until the captain of Pub Ed retired and nobody was there to take his place. So Freddie and Andy kind of sat in the closet, literally, until we brought them back. Not we, these guys brought them back to life. So thank you. Thank you so much. So we have some certificates. So,
Nicholas Hicks.
yep.
Jose Zamudio.
So we were able to bring back Freddie just in time for the Light Up the Holidays parade. So Freddie was in the parade this year, marching right along with the actual fire trucks. So that was really great. Andy was just a little bit behind that. So, but we have we're designing a curriculum to incorporate that into our Pub Ed program once again, so that they'll put smiles on all these little kids' faces.
You guys have to get in the
Get
photo.
the picture.
Families, if you would like to come up, I
All right, at this time, we're going to take a brief recess to come out and we're moving into superintendent reports, so we'll turn it over to Dr. Guzman at this time.
Thank you. No correspondence or legislative report, but we do have 2 presentations this evening. So we're going to begin our first presentation with a parent-teacher advisory presentation. This is an annual presentation. I'm going to invite Dr. Markham and Mr. Locke, who facilitate the group, to come up. And I know that they have additional people that they will be inviting up who are part of the committee. So, thank you.
All right, hello again, everybody. Our committee members, if you want to come up and stand over here to my right along the window. So as Dr. Guzman said, Dr. Markham and I had the privilege to run the annual Parent-Teacher Advisory Committee. This past fall, it was actually, it was a really good time. This is one of the better committee groups that we have had in a while. Attendance was great, very consistent, and we got through a lot. And you know, a lot of the committee members, we talked about it quite a few times, and many of them did agree and volunteered to come here tonight to help Brett and I present to everybody. So we did meet 6 times over the course of the fall from September through December. And although we had roughly 50 to 60 names, consistently we had 24 people, and you can see the committee membership as far as kind of their roles within the school or the community that showed up on a consistent basis. The committee purpose, as everybody, or at least the board knows, the main purpose is to go over administrating medicine in school, reciprocal reporting by JTHS and the Joliet Police Department, student behavior and intervention guidelines, along with school bus safety, and then dissemination of student conduct information.
So one of the first tasks we take on with this committee each year is to review some of those things that are required by school code for this committee to review. And so I'll just go over 3 of them briefly. The first recommendation that the committee is making for your consideration it relates to policy 7270, which is administering medicines to students at school. That's a policy that has options for this Board of Education to consider. One of those options is undesignated EpiPens and asthma inhalers. In talking about it with the committee, and we're fortunate enough to have one of our nurses on the committee this year, we felt like it would be a good recommendation for the board to consider. You know, if that's something that you all decide to approve and move forward with, Steve and I would meet with the health office at both campuses, the PPS coordinators, just to make sure that we adopt procedures that align with ISB's guidance and best practices, so that we can do that to make sure our students are in as safe of an environment as possible. 7190 AP2 relates to reciprocal reporting with law enforcement. We are not making any recommendations to change that. I think that it might be in the board packet today, but there was some legislative language that changed on July 1st. We agree with all that, no recommendation to change. And then one of the things we do annually, and we were fortunate this year to have someone who is both a parent and a former employee of the district as a bus driver. So a pretty unique and interesting perspective. Just some recommendations for our handbook relating to language for students as it relates to bus behavior, right? So there's some, in one of the supporting documents that I think you got is handbook language about bus behavior, just some recommendations for students to consider. The other thing that was nice this year, that was the last couple of years we've been working to do leveled behavior infractions in our handbook. That's something that we adopted for this year. So that's been a bulk of the work the last couple of school years. And so this year, now that we have that in place, we're fortunate to be able to do a lot of data review, talking about procedures and how we're doing things in school, and then just to work with the committee members on topics that were interesting to them, that they think are important to help improve our school climate and culture. And so what we were able to do after we identified that interest from the committee is break into working groups so they can make recommendations. So we're going to invite different members up here to talk about some of those different topics that we discussed as a committee.
Hi there, my name is Anna Carbine. I am a dean at Joliet West, and I was part of the cell phone group. Why does this matter to us? It matters to us because we want to protect student focus. We think it's important to support relationships, to reduce stress. That screen brings a lot of stress, and then to support academic success. So the hope is that the phones are put away. We're going to put them away to eliminate those distractions, keep the students focused, hopefully improve grades, support mental health, and then help develop social skills. The biggest thing with the policy language are two different things. The first one is the new use of the meta glasses. So the first line I'm going to read word for word. Use possession and or wearing of smart or AI glasses. For example, meta glasses is strictly prohibited at all JTHS 204 facilities and events. And then the next one talks about how we'd like to remove cell phones in academic areas, so that classroom, in advisories, library, dean's offices, health offices. We want cell phones put away, with the exception of at lunch and then in the hallways. Other non-JTHS electronics, so headphones, earbuds, iPads, iPods, watches, all of those things, the hope is that they are off and stored in student backpack, locker, whatever they're most comfortable with at that time during classes. The expectation would be for every class, every academic setting, and including advisory. We hit on advisory because, yes, some students are just in a normal advisory. We have some that are in those AP advisories, that MTSS advisories. Some go to the Learning Center. So we want to make sure that it covers everything, including that advisory time, so it impacts all of our students at that time. We talked about our leveled behaviors, and here's a list of suggested, like a step-by-step of what would happen for a level 1, the first warning, the second warning, and the third. So we're talking verbal, a phone call home, and referral to the dean with interventions that are already being done in the classrooms at this time. Our teachers are very familiar with this. Nonverbal, verbal, conversation after class, phone call home, change of seat, and then lastly, that referral to the dean. A lot of questions, so we bring this up and we know the concerns. We know people, what happens if this happens? What if? And we can answer all the what ifs, we can play out all the what ifs, but something's gonna change, right? The biggest thing for us is that we want that student safety. It's important for us. We want that focus. We want to bring it back into the classroom. We really want to support the students' mental health, remove that screen time a little bit there. I'm sure those numbers are very high, so we want to drop it a little bit, at least during the daytime, that we can have that impact as educators. What if my parent or guardian needs to reach me? As a dean, my phone's always available. I'll take parent phone calls. Can I speak to my student? Yes, give me a few minutes. I've got to find them. I'll grab them, and I'll be able to bring them down to you. What if there's an emergency, like a lockdown? Again, safety is first. We want those students to be safe. We want the building to be safe. Then we could talk about what's next. If we give the ability to those students to use their cell phones to make that contact home, although the district's already made that contact home, a lot of ease is brought when they can make contact with that parent. We understand that, but we'd still follow the safety plans put in place first. Can I keep my phone on silent or in my backpack or pocket? The hope is to eliminate all distractions. So the hope would be to, at the start of the class, it goes in that assigned space, and we talk about at the end what it looks like. We know our CTE program is piloting these wonderful boxes, and it's going really well there. We've talked about the sleeves, but once, if this were to go through, we have a collection of ideas where they can put them. We don't want them in backpack or pocket because that vibration, that noise, that ding still brings on the distractions to the students and those around them. If a teacher wants to use a phone in a classroom, we have mentioned, teacher discretion. Sometimes those QR codes, you can't always bring your laptop up and scan them, and it doesn't work as user-friendly as the phones may. So we would allow for that to be. If I finish my work early, can I use my phone? The hope would be no. The plan is bell to bell, no cell is what we're hoping. If they had a medical reason, so we've got students who have 504 plans for diabetes, the phone can read insulin levels, things along those lines. That's written in a plan. We are, of course, willing to follow that. We're not going to remove that from the student. Whatever is best, again, for their safety, for their personal well-being, we still want to be able to follow. Implementation, I think the biggest thing here is communication. to family, to staff, to everyone involved. You flood that social media, Parent Square, the way they access it, yes, is it on their cell phone? Absolutely. But we want to make sure they are fully aware of everything before we were able to implement this moving forward, if that's the rate we go. Okay? Dress code.
Any questions regarding anything that's been presented so much? And the reason I say that, sometimes it's
Yes.
easier right after.
I have a question with going back to the medical.
Yeah.
You guys specifically said EpiPens and asthma inhalers.
Oh, this is not.
Are there any other medications? I just know that, like migraines and stuff like that, like, I literally had one came on, took my pills, 30 minutes later I feel better, but the key is to getting it quick and not waiting for the pass, going to the nurse. Has that been under consideration? Or if, I don't know if it's legal or not.
I was gonna say the two things that are undesignated, go ahead. are
So,
those
so that comes down to school code, right? So like by school code, we're allowed to have that option for undesignated EpiPens, asthma inhalers, and then we already have Narcan, right? At this point, we're not allowed to have undesignated medicines for anything else, right? So that's just school code. That's not something where we have that leeway. These are the couple of objects where we do have that opportunity. Yeah, yep.
That's a good question.
And those two specifically undesignated, because those are life-saving. You know, if you're having an allergic reaction, you know, an EpiPen is life-saving. So someone who's never had an allergic reaction, who doesn't have an EpiPen with them, if we had an undesignated, meaning it's not prescribed to any one person, we could use that. Asthma, it's the albuterol inhaler that opens up your lungs. If someone's, you know, wheezing really bad and having a bad asthma attack, it's an instant help.
Okay, thank you.
Anything regarding the cell phone recommendation too?
I had one
Oh,
question
I'm
about
sorry, Ms.
cell phone.
Lynn, did you have a
No,
follow-up?
go ahead.
Oh,
No,
okay.
not follow up with that. I had something I wanted to ask about cell phones too.
So I know that there are students on the committee. So how are students feeling about this change? And my recommendation would be that your student advisory would do a video and kind of explain this to the students, yeah?
Yeah,
Okay.
so a couple of different ways that we got feedback from students. So we did have student members of the committee, and then we also presented to Dr. Guzman's student advisory committee. We have a student advisory committee at West Campus as well, who we talked to just to get their kind of feedback. And the students who are on those committees, the feedback is generally positive, right? I think there's a lot of acknowledgement from our students now that that addiction to social media and screen time is real. They're aware that they have it, and they're willing to kind of go with this to address that and focus on their learning, right? I would say that also a lot of them have shared that when they come from our center schools, they're used to not having access to them. So surprisingly, pretty positive feedback from students.
I have a question. A lot of the cell phone you're putting back on the teachers. The teacher needs to do a verbal and then call home and then a referral. I think that a lot of this needs to be taken off of the teachers, because that's when you're not going to get as much as the buy-in, because it's one more thing that you have to do on top of the tardies, on top of this. Why are we allowing a verbal warning? Like, they know the rules. You see it, it's gone.
Yeah.
And a lot of schools do that. I know where I work is do it. And I don't see a single cell phone, because I will immediately call. And then it takes responsibility off the teacher. When a kid has a phone now, I say, why do you have to make me go call security on you? Like, it's not me. You made me. And you're putting all this responsibility back on the teacher. And I don't think it's should be on the teacher, because it can harm relationships. It's one more thing a teacher's got to do. And then I don't think you're going to get as many teachers buying in if they have to do all the work for it.
So just a couple of things I would say with the work that we did with leveling, and this is considered a level 1 infraction. So, and I was in a presentation, I know that there were different presentations at each campus. I was in the presentation at Central with part of the freshman academy. The dean and the academy coordinator were going through and talking about the different levels and the way that we're approaching them. And the level 1 infraction, it is things in the classroom. So I think that is something we should think about and look at during implementation, but this was considered not as severe, and that's why it was level 1 with other things. We certainly could take that back to the committee to talk about that, but I think because it was level 1 and establishing those rules in the classroom, those are the same steps as other level 1 infractions.
But are the other level 1 infractions based on addiction affecting the kids' learning? So I just feel like, and I would like it being brought back and like teachers' opinions on it. If you want it to work, it's got to be strict. It still can be a level 1 infraction, but your phone's taken away immediately. Like, I just don't think it should be put all on the teachers 3 times.
Like, I can tell you that when you get, as parents, when you get 8 phone calls in a day because you're pulling your phone out, I know that my experience has been, kid goes home and the parent's like, 8 teachers called me today about the cell phone, it's gotta be away, right? So I think you're gonna see at the beginning of this implementation, there's gonna be some growing pains, but surprisingly, the amount of problems or the amount of resistance to putting the phones away will significantly decrease. I think if everybody's consistent at first.
I think, but that's the key, is everyone's consistent, and if you're putting it all on the teachers, I don't think you're gonna get that consistency, because there's so much more that you have to keep track of, tardies, this and that. I really think it should be a discussion, and maybe with the teachers' union and stuff like that, of how they feel, if they teachers want that responsibility, or it should just be taken away. And agree, it's gonna be growing pains, and if you're calling security to take those phones that first month, yeah, it's gonna be a lot of growing pains. But if those kids know that that cell phone's gonna be taken away the first time the teacher sees it, they're not gonna get it out.
I think we'll also have to see if we could handle like security coming and getting all of those. I think that would be something, I don't know right now if that would be feasible. From the onset, we may have to track it and then pivot to that after we get through some of the growing pains. But I do hear what you're saying. I
Yeah.
don't think there's a perfect way to it.
Well, and I'm sorry to interrupt. So I was on the cell phone committee the first time we had it when I was first on the board, and we let it to be teacher discretion, and there was none. I mean, my daughter texts me almost every hour, and she's not supposed to have her phone on her, right? But she still does, and she's a good kid. So I just think if we're gonna come in like, kind of cautiously and not so much, it's not gonna work. If you want the phones to disappear, we gotta come in full force and like make those phones disappear, because to me, I just don't, I think there's too much wiggle room. 3 times you can have your cell phone out before you actually get a referral. I feel like, and you're putting it on the teacher saying, put it away. And then there's that battle between the teacher, and it affects the relationships. We can't say relationships are so important, but then you're now expecting the teacher to have that battle of the cell phone, because we know that if you ask a kid for a cell phone, like it's like part of them. They don't like giving it up, and now we're putting it back on the teacher.
I think just a couple of things. I totally agree, right? But one of the biggest obstacles we have to overcome is getting all of our staff members to buy in and go along in the same direction, right? Some differences this go around. This recommendation, this working group had mostly teachers. I mean, Dean Carbine was here presenting, right? But there were teachers on this group. They got feedback from other teachers. We're at a point now where a lot of school districts have adopted cell phone policies, and a lot of what we shared tonight came from other school districts and things that they've been able to work through and are working well. One of the recommendations upon approval is to provide resources in every classroom that are standard, that every teacher would use, so that while it talks about discretion, that's not something that we're recommending. We want everybody to be consistent with it, because that's from the feedback from the students. If it's consistent, they just know what to expect. It's gonna be easier for them, right? Not to say that there's not gonna be hurdles, not to say that it's gonna be necessarily easy initially for anybody, but I think it's a little bit different the way that we're hoping to approach it this time as opposed to the way we did last time, where it's more standardized, standard resources, standard expectations, and it's clear. This committee is recommending to not allow them in academic areas at all, right? That's the recommendation, and we'll see how it goes. And throughout the process, this committee will come back, if it's approved, and review the data again next year. There's always opportunities to get feedback from everybody and adjust. But I feel pretty confident, speaking on behalf of the committee, that we feel like it's time to make some sort of effort to try to get out in front of it, as opposed to right now where it is completely up to the teacher to set those expectations, and it's different in every classroom.
No, I understand. I just feel like if we're gonna make a policy, let's jump forward and go full in and not just have 3 times you can mess up before that cell phone is taken away. It's not even ever taken away. It's just a referral and a phone call home. Like, I just don't think it's enough.
Dress code? Are we ready for dress code?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Steve Sieper. I'm an academy coordinator at Central Campus. I was one of the folks on the dress code committee. The first part, the first page of the school board policy 7160, it's just striking out the name himself, or the word himself, and putting in the student. And then the last part is a redundancy of the first part, so we struck that out. When we start talking specifically about attire, the first recommendation was clothing and makeup may not impact on the district's ability to clearly identify the student and properly engage in the educational process. The second bullet about clothing was not changed at all in reference to advertisements that are alcohol, drug, tobacco related, etc. The third bullet point, students must wear clothing including both shirt and pants or skirt or the equivalent, dresses, leggings, yoga pants, shorts, sweatpants, that completely covers private parts in opaque material is the recommendation, not able to be seen through, striking out the last part, which is the current, which is what currently reads in the board policy.
Good evening. I'm Chuck Rumpf. I'm a dean at West Campus. Another recommendation that the committee came up with, and you can see here, is headwear being permitted, but the face must be visible to all school staff. And essentially, like, identification at that point would be the big thing, that we could still identify the students, but headwear, hats and hoodies would be allowed. So again, that's a recommendation for the committee, but last October, deans from West Campus, Central Campus, and Pathways, we had an opportunity to do a professional development at West Aurora High School, who's already adopted a similar policy to their dress code about allowing headwear. So we went over a number of things during that professional development, but since they were already utilizing this, we kind of asked them questions about that to see how it would work and what it would look like. So how they were able to adopt this policy is they just researched neighboring school districts who are already implementing it and allowing headwear in their buildings. They said that it's a recent change to their school policy, but they didn't notice like an uptick in the number of kids that were all of a sudden starting to wear hats or hoodies in the building. Is their finding is that kids who wanted to wear them in the first place would just be wearing them in the building, but kids who had no desire to just would not wear them at all. So we also had an opportunity, because school was in session at West Aurora High School that day, to kind of see what that would look like. They invited us to kind of stand in the hallway and kind of observe how that would be. And we were able to do that. And what we observed was it was just a typical day. Some students were wearing headwear in the building, many were not. There were no like interactions between staff or security at West Aurora High School, like coming up to students and asking them to remove the headwear. There was no conflict or power struggle or any issues like that. It was just people went about their day in a typical fashion. And again, the work that the committee did, we believe that this recommendation could work at Joliet Township.
Were there any cons to your research?
Not to our research, like in terms of like anything the committee came up with, and certainly like when we were at West Aurora, nothing we observed, no.
What about in the classroom with like earbuds being hidden and affecting classroom instruction?
That's actually covered in
Okay.
there. It says that it says that headwear must be removed in the classroom if there is a concern, which would be obvious from the teacher about maintaining the integrity of an assignment or an assessment. So if a teacher says we're having a test today, or we're having an assignment, something that's, they feel is, pretty significant, they could then ask the students to make sure that all headwear is removed at that time.
My main concern with that is I don't have time in the day to do an earbud check. So I can be completely talking and I have no idea until I go up and I get close and I'm like, oh my God, they have an earbud in. Because I don't have time to say, okay, everyone show me your ears. Now assessment days, I do. Everyone pull your hair back, let me see your ears to make sure. I just think that it does affect the learning.
What does headgear constitute?
There would be like hats or like, obviously now wintertime, winter hats, kids with their hoods up. And again, that piece where the face must be visible, like if a student has a ski mask and it's pulled over the face, like where the recommendation is that is still not allowed.
What about do-rags and bonnets?
Do-rags and bonnets would be considered headwear, and they would be fine.
I know a lot of students that kind of struggle with sensory integration and utilize like their hoodie for some of those kind of reasons. I'm more concerned about, like, I think what I'm hearing is that the power struggles are leading to disciplinary consequences, and perhaps maybe the deans are spending a lot of time on discipline for headwear when it's not that big of a deal. Or is that not accurate?
Well, going back to what Chuck said earlier about the West Aurora and the number of students who are wearing headwear, first of all, there's a concern about safety, for instance. Those students are easily identifiable because so few of them are wearing headwear to begin with. Oh, I'm sorry. So few are wearing headwear to begin with that they're easily identifiable. We looked at 7 different school districts and policies in the 7 different school districts. Some have policies, a couple have policies very similar to our current policy. A couple of them are very, very, very non-specific, undefined, so we definitely steered ourselves away from those. But those that we talked to, and I did talk to, well, besides Chuck mentioning West Aurora, I did speak to 2 other school districts, and they said there were some growing pains at first. There was still some redirection about hats being worn in an appropriate way, not covering your face, students being reminded. But over time, it became we have more students concerned about the way they look. So we have a lot of students, including males, who are spending more time in the bathroom trying to fix their hair and just look up like however they want to look. They're not wearing hats in the building as it is right now. We also have situations like you mentioned where we were told by social workers and counselors there are sensory issues. There are kids who feel comfortable kind of keeping themselves covered. And so is that a problem if their face isn't covered? We say it's not a problem to the academic environment or teaching a student. The teachers we've spoken to and the teachers on the committee have been very clear about the fact that what a student wears on their head does not influence how well I can teach that student on a given day. And so that's all of those things collectively are the reason why we're making that recommendation.
For me, I don't think it's the learning environment, it's the safety and security, right? So when you turn on the news, every time you see a criminal act, it's someone with a hoodie whose head is covered, unidentifiable. And we know that a lot of our students want to wear that. And I just want to prevent students who are coming to school, yes, they may have their hoodie on, but they're being wrongfully targeted, right? I want to prevent that, because if you see 100 kids in a black hoodie, those are all the kids that you're going to go out and seek if there's something that has transpired in the school. And so that, for me, is what I want to prevent. And as well as the do-rags and bonnets, those were created to sleep in, not to wear out in the public. And so, and I know it's specific to the black culture, and that is why I am 100% against wearing bonnets and do-rags in school. So,
Like I said before, as someone that's currently in the classroom, I do think the kids do who don't want to learn, put their hoodies up and put their earbuds in, and you, as a teacher, you don't know right away that they have them in unless you do an ear check. So I do think it impacts the learning. And then when you do have group work, where how can you participate in a group when you have an earbud in and you're not hearing what people are saying?
And do-rags and bonnets were specifically brought up by one of our members, actually two of them on our subcommittee. And they shared, one of the people shared similar concerns to yours. The other person pointed out that students on the flip side feel like there should be some cultural recognition of their choice to wear a bonnet or a do-rag, that they shouldn't be singled out or be told that they couldn't wear those things. The question was, what harm is it causing? And so it goes back to the learning environment and the ability to teach a student if they are wearing those things. Does that affect the learning?
So I'll share that my observation with the dress code. I voted for the dress code the last time it was up only because I was against wearing the headgear. So I gave them the vote for the dress code. Now we're having significant issues with the dress code, and we were told that exact sentiment, what you just said. We were told the same thing, and now we're having issues with the dress code because they told us, the students indicated that, well, you're sexualizing us by preventing us from wearing what we want to wear. That is what was told to us. And so now the fact that you have to put opaque clothing in our dress code indicates that they're wearing a lot of sheer items to school, right?
Actually, our choice of doing that, was just to be very clear about it. Some of the members of the subcommittee did not feel comfortable with breasts and genitalia because they felt that that was something very, very specific that we did not find in any other policy, nothing close to that. So where could we find some common ground with the language? That was really the only purpose. We had two deans on the committee. They were not concerned about sheer, it was just, again, about keeping the integrity of what it said without that specific language.
And the language, as it currently, it was making people, the language was making some people uncomfortable.
Correct.
Any other questions with dress code? Thank you.
All right, good evening. My name is Kristen Challey. I'm a dean at Joliet West. Myself and two additional committee members were the head of the areas for additional consideration. So anything that didn't fall under cell phone or dress code kind of fell under this umbrella of items. So it may be kind of random, but we promise they are things that we wanted to bring to the committee. What we wanted to talk about were bathrooms, substance use, and intervention, communication, and awareness. For each of those, we're going to talk about room for growth, student perspective, and recommendations. And then the last thing that we wanted to talk about was a school-based intervention program.
Good evening, I'm Julia Tolbert. I'm a social studies teacher at Joliet Central. I'm a part of the additional group. So when we discussed bathrooms, we really talked about getting the students and staff perspective, either from the dean's office, teachers, and then all of our students. I work primarily with freshmen, so they're coming from a totally different kind of experience. So in terms of the students that also are on our committee, we discussed what their experience is like in the bathroom, and for them, it's a point of anxiety, friction, and in some cases, conflict, both physical and social. So our discussion was, how can we remove these barriers to learning, barriers for engaging with our classmates, and make sure that they are entitled to what we want in our strategic plan, which is a high-quality school with the essentials for quality life, to help them engage in the whole community. And having safe bathrooms does not seem like an unrealistic expectation. For any 14-year-old coming to our school to know that, this is a place for you to just use the bathroom and, and get your stuff done and get back into the classroom. For us, our recommendations, and hopefully with your approval, is to discuss ways for us to mitigate some of the, in our case, shenanigans, but also substance use that occurs in the bathrooms at Joliet Township. So for us, we're trying to discuss, what is it like for our students to use the bathroom? We had 2 students that were pretty honest about what it's like to use the bathroom during the passing periods, and they're like, it's not something I'm trying to do. They're like, I have to hold my breath to use the bathroom because I don't want to inhale secondhand vape. That's crazy. I'm not having to experience that in my everyday life. I don't want a 14-year-old to have to experience that. So we see that as a problem and a barrier to their functioning. How can we eliminate that barrier? So as a group, we just wanted to see how could we help them. We talked about some of the health effects of secondary vaping and then what also it causes for peer pressure, but also just a kid should not have to hold their breath to go to the bathroom. And then within the bathroom, on the dean's perspective, there are times where it's a point of conflict, physical, social. There are times where fights start or originate in the bathroom. Not every day, but it does happen. And so for us, we're trying to see how can we solve these problems. If we have an opportunity to solve it, if it doesn't cost us, how can we not solve it? So for us, just discussing if conflict arises physically, if there's too many students in the bathroom, then let's talk about providing some kind of limitation for the number of students in a bathroom. So if we have 4 stalls, 4 students should go in. And if that means that we discuss what it means to have somebody supervise a bathroom, that's already going on at Joliet Central and Joliet West. To try and make sure that the students know that we are here to observe, make sure that you are going in and going out safely. One of the student suggestions, which was very creative, she discussed that, what about scanners in the bathrooms to get yourself in? She was very passionate about wanting like a very concrete system. We know that that may not be possible, but we wanted to include it, especially because she had some good points for sure. And then just discussing what it means to tackle this as a group. We want them to be able to, use the bathroom, but also that's not something that comes without effort. It may need additional maintenance. The main focus to mitigate some of these issues was to discuss, does that apply additional pressure on teachers? Does that apply additional pressures on support staff, to deans? And so we talked about what would it be like to remove the doors of relevant bathrooms, whether that's a bathroom that, per the building code, does not allow an eye line of students, does not impact privacy, but also allows teachers to do what they need to do and deans to attend to the things that they need to do. So for us, just the additional resources may be talking about where our hotspots are. Could we talk about removing doors? We talked about West Aurora. Did they ended up removing and addressing doors that way?
No doors there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then other school districts have a supervisor with the 1 person per stall rule. So those are our ways of addressing that. Are there any questions pertaining to the bathrooms?
Thank you. I noticed that you didn't have like vape detectors in the bathroom. Was that something that was talked about?
So we did, we actually have been researching that, I would say probably for the last 3 years is something that we've looked into. The schools that we have spoken to, we know some schools that have them, and they say they're super ineffective, as in it's a lot of false alarms with perfume and things like that. And a lot of students report that when they go off, those students are leaving, and so like the innocent ones are stuck in the bathroom, and they're the ones that are being, taken to the dean's office, being searched and things like that. So they say for the cost of them, they're very cost ineffective, and a lot of schools are finding that once they had them, they were not worth that. But I know that we were trying to get that as deans for many years, and then after being on this committee and doing the research and speaking to the schools that have them, much of them were like, we don't use them anymore. They were very ineffective and causing a lot of false alarms.
All right, so moving on from bathrooms into substance use. Again, this was a topic that many members of the committee brought up that is an issue. So in talking with students and staff, parents, the student perspective was a lot having to do with the bathrooms. The students want to be able to use the bathrooms without people vaping in there. So also students coming in using substances have an odor to them that can be distracting in the classroom, whether that's triggering for personal use or family use. And then, staff, the barriers to learning if a student is using substances, and then also the consequences for substance use in schools. It pulls the student out of the classroom often. Research, we know substance use is bad, both short-term and long-term. Next slide. Substance use considerations. So, oh yeah, thank you. No problem. Assistant. I didn't know I needed an assistant. All right, changes that need to be made. So one of the big things we talked about is having more positive propaganda. Kind of like we've done with attendance this year, there's been a big push for attendance. You know, on the announcements, there's talking about, you know, attendance and how it improves your grades in school. There's posters up all around. So we talked about positive propaganda. And again, this was student input that led us to these things. Announcements, posters, different incentives. Do you want to talk about the
so
incentive?
the two students that were the most, I would say, like, that contributed the most talked about how they want it to be addressed, and they think if we tell them another thing, there's very little likelihood that they're going to do it, which I think is fair.
Yeah.
So they were like, if it's a student-led campaign, art is involved, student council is involved, but also like the students decide that this is something they're going to buy into, and it's something that they have to kind of take over for themselves, they think it'll accomplish more. And I think that's definitely fair, especially if they agree that it's something that they want to change, because being somebody who doesn't have a fully developed frontal lobe, dealing with addiction is scary. You don't know what that's going to be like. But if you find out that you have a group of people that are experiencing something similar and your school is backing you through that, they said that they may see their friends kind of go through the journey together. So we talked about how we have you know, pink heels or our like West versus Central awareness game for breast cancer. Maybe we could do something for nicotine addiction, just so students can feel like this is something we're all doing together. And then bring your own, turn in your vape day. They said is very successful at other schools. But giving students the opportunity to not necessarily be a just say no kind of culture about it, be like, we can actually make steps as a team. And they seemed really excited about it, so something to do.
And then just one more thing, on the announcements, it was a few months back, one of the announcements, the stat was something like less than 10% of high school students are actively using. And I had students come talk to me that day and say, wow, I thought it was so much more. And so I think, you know, our students need to know it is not everybody, you know, that is using substances. So just more knowledge for them to make educated decisions.
Just to follow up to, as the board knows, we do have Amber Mitchell, who is our licensed clinician working with students that have substance abuse. She has come and worked with the Student Advisory Committee. She's done that group is very passionate about this area. So she actually sent me an update today, and she's working with an outside entity that may have grant money to run some youth mental health first aid training, like this would be under that, some campaigning with the students, how to get them more involved, and so she is working on those things too. Any questions regarding substance abuse?
Has there been like a review of like the health curriculum and like, you know, like you were talking about the education piece about other kids? Have we embedded more substance use in the curriculum?
Quite a bit.
Like, they have their own standing unit for substance abuse. That's one of the things I would compliment our health teachers on. Plus, remember, we have that unit that we embedded in biology this year regarding nicotine, or last year, nicotine, and the effects on it, so that we exposed freshmen in biology about just the physiological effects, and then health class has an entire unit on health, and vaping is a big part.
And part of what, just to follow up, part of what Amber is looking to do and what we talked about is having, like, is it small group, is it large group? What do we need to do annually? Because it's not a one and done topic. It's really something we have to do annually, in addition to what's in the curriculum, to hit everybody and what that looks like. And we do think that with the incorporation of flex time, that's something where we could do presentations and such in the future, but what do we do before we get to that point too? So it's an ongoing issue, it's a growing issue. I know, yeah, and when we met, some of our deans were at the same meeting at Institute Day, and they're laughing because I don't know exactly how I asked it, but I was there with the attorney, and it came up, and we said, okay, so are any schools that have a good plan where they're working against this? And the answer was no. Not like everybody's working on it, but everybody is working at it, and there hasn't really been this perfect plan, and it's ongoing. And we said, okay, well, that's good to know too, but also the upticks that we're seeing, they're happening at other places too. So we have to keep working on it.
The next thing on the committee that we talked about was interventions. Since this year, we did start out those leveled infractions. So now we have like level 1 through level 4. And underneath each intervention is a behavior and then like a response. So like interventions and consequences. Our board policy in our handbook is very long. And I know it's a PDF online. However, we find that the student perspective, we ask the students on the committee about our presentation as deans and what they're told and what they remember. The kids couldn't even tell me much at all. So we're finding that students, when we're presenting these policies for discipline and consequences and, you know, what our interventions are, they're not listening or they forget because it's that first, second week of school. We're also finding that students are learning about these interventions after they're doing something wrong. And we want there to be more awareness to what we offer ahead of time. I always say as a dean that I want to be more proactive rather than reactive. But there's only so much time for me to meet with these students to discuss the policy before it gets out of hand. So in terms of the staff perspective, I think that having an easier way to look at our interventions is going to reduce like those questions in class and like, well, I didn't know I couldn't do this, and those comments that we're getting from students. We also feel that a digital handbook gives the parents like a consistent, always available like area to go. And it supports our behavior management plan, and I feel like it reduces that classroom disruptions on like, I didn't know we couldn't do this. No one ever told me this, those types of comments that we get. We did some research. There are a lot of schools who have digital communication tools. I know that we use Parent Square. We are just looking to remove that barrier from parents and allowing them to be more engaged. When, we're calling home about discipline infractions, not all parents know our handbook. Some do, some don't. And so they're taking the time to look through it, or I'm looking through it in my office. I'm reading it to them over the phone, which is completely fine. I don't mind doing that. But we want to give them an easier way for them to get to those access points on their own.
So what you're saying is you want the handbook digital?
With links where parents can easily click and get that resource. So that's what she was going to talk about.
So like, it seems kind of in terms of like, it's a lot of information to digitize, but in terms of like making sure it's proactive instead of reactionary, having the list of all of our interventions, whether they're disciplinary or social emotional or academic, in one consolidated place on the website, we think would be very helpful. Right now, in order to find academic, social emotional, and disciplinary, it's at least 6 or 7 clicks for me moving through. I've seen other schools where it's just consolidated into one place, but in our case, having an understanding for staff, but also students, is some continuity so we can be very effective of what is the description of the intervention, what are the qualifications in order to get into that intervention, whether this is a precautionary intervention or this is the result of some actions, who are the providers at the schools, and then how do you access that? If it's a QR code in a Google form, they need to know that that's available to them. But also, if you're on the phone with a teacher or parent, I'm clicking it with you. We're going through it together. But just making sure that it's always something that's available, but also that's something that, again, you can go through, during your advisor or a SIP day, talking about that these are the things that are available to you, rather than, oh, I didn't know that this is what gets me into this specific set of, situation. So for students not knowing that there's a tier to this and you're not just randomly put somewhere, but also like the parents then get to know who's providing services to their student after an event, or even just for academic support.
And I think too, I know that when I just spoke, I focus more on consequences and interventions from a dean standpoint, but there's also those tier 2, tier 3 interventions that we have for behavioral health. And a lot of students don't know what we have because it's hard to find. And a lot of students are so grateful when they come to our office and we're giving them these options, stating like, I wish I would have known you would have had this. Like, I wish I would have known ahead of time. I could have gotten that support before, instead of them, having to kind of figure it out by maybe not going through some great things in their life. So if it's more accessible to parents, but also to students, so that they know the supports that we offer. We do a great job in our BHT team to come up with these support and get these outside providers. We just want to make sure that parents and students have access to that as well. And some easier links that we can sort through would really help with that. So not only behavior, but also those tier 3, tier 2, tier 1 supports that we offer in terms of behavioral health that, some people don't know that we have.
And the main thing it would require is us just getting together and talking about what we offer and who's involved in that to get a consolidated list.
We would really need technology help.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, definitely.
Any questions? All right. So this last item that we wanted to talk about, this is something that came out of looking at the data in our committee. It also aligns with Action Plan 2.2 and 1.5. We want to provide supportive programming that improves the success of all students, and we want to increase that graduation rate and post-secondary success. Currently, we do not have an in-house kind of area for students that need some additional support. We do have our Pathways Academy, who have Bravo and Alpha, but we're looking to bring something in-house. What it would look like is a self-contained area, but it would be multiple classes in one area. So students may go from 3 to 4 classrooms during the day in one part of the building. This would deter wandering. They would also have them enter through a separate door. We know that our students who struggle with certain behaviors or that anxiety of being in a building with a lot of students, this would be something that would ease anxiety and let them not have to be around everybody else if that causes, some anxiety with them. The classes, we would utilize teachers for the core classes, which is why students would be, traveling between 3 to 4 classes, but we would use Apex for those other classes or those electives. It would be a shortened day, and we would want to open this to all 5th-year students and other students by referral. I think that we have seen in data that unstructured areas are obstacles. Most of our severe incidences happen outside of the classroom, so in the hallway, in the cafeteria, items like that. We've also had good data with Gateway 2.0. Those are for students with a certain amount of credits to kind of make it through the day and get them to graduate. However, there's a limit to how many kids can be in that program. So this is an additional support to student that would open up more opportunities. There's a lot of students who, after their 4th year, if they have additional years, they're not gonna come back. They don't want to. It's too much work. They're embarrassed. But also students who may not go do their GED. So this is a way for students to have a place to go where they feel like they can, graduate, and it would help them out with their post-secondary, whether that's getting a job or going to school. This is something that we know more research and work has to be done, but the committee wanted to bring it up to the board as something that we're hoping to look into a little bit more in terms of our strategic plan that would help, meet the needs of more of our students and keep them in school.
So how many students would this support at each of the buildings? How many staff? Are you just throwing it out there and then we're gonna get more information?
So I think this comes from this committee out of reviewing our data and looking at number of students who are repeating severe incidents, or looking at ways to decrease out-of-school suspensions, decrease expulsions, trying to be creative, looking at what other schools do. Many other schools have programming beyond what we have with Catalyst before they go to that expulsion level. So this is really just from the group, some things that they'd like to see us try to be more supportive of students. There will be a lot of work still to be done on the administrative end to make this happen.
Because it looks like a self-contained special ed program, and so you're, to me, I'm concerned about procedural safeguards and rights of kids that aren't, I'm assuming this isn't for students with IEPs.
Right, no, that's not what this group was talking about.
So, there's no
Right.
guardrails on that.
A lot of work to do,
Okay.
right? A lot of work to do, but, again, this is just from the group, based on the data, something, none of us are here to expel kids and suspend kids, and that's where the concern comes from, is what more can we do to give kids different pathways and opportunities to graduation? And of course, there is still that concern that you bring up of, does it become a place where we just push students who are unwilling? And that's some of those procedures that we'd have to work through to make it happen.
I, just to know, I called and asked a similar question. What is in your board packet for first read are the, things that are for the board to determine if you're approving for next year. The part that it was just talked about, like with bathrooms, with interventions, with this example, these are things for awareness as we're planning and maybe moving forward to consider. So there's not an approval for this. It was more of like, this is what we're seeing. Is this a consideration as we're working through the strategic plan that we could work on? So there wouldn't be necessarily something that's in the works or being planned for next year for consideration as we're thinking about how to improve things in the future.
It's more the idea stage.
It really is. So more of an awareness. This group is committed to looking at data on a yearly basis as part of the work they do. Actually, twice a year you were talking about it now.
Back in January and presented first semester data and kind of, I think for the group that was there, you know, that looking at first semester data just reiterated some of these things that came up with substance use in bathrooms and the needs for additional programming. And this is, like Dr. Guzman said, there's no recommendations or action items in this whole last section under additional considerations. It's just a lot of the conversation from the group.
So to summarize, the changes that the board would look to take action on next time, and it's approval or not, you can take these separately or together, that would be the board's decision. But the undesignated medications, because that's a change to board policy, and then upon that, procedures would be developed and worked with our nurses and with our staff to make sure we're in compliance. Cell phones and electronic devices, because that would also impact board policy, and then attire. Correct? Those are the big things, and then there's some grammar and suggestions there. But those are the three big recommendations that the board would take action on next time. The other things are for more awareness.
Since we are looking at taking action on certain things for next time, do we have an idea of what kind of containers the cell phones would go in yet, how much they would cost yet, and to make sure that we had enough containers for every single cell phone and not just like half of the class, et cetera?
Yeah, so the group they gave us a plethora of options, right? And that would be one of the next steps. We didn't want to invest a lot of time and energy into that until we know it was something we were going to move forward with. And that's the benefit of you all making a decision at the February board meeting, is that then we have time to go look at that. So we have those options. Mr. Locke and I have those. We would have to meet with Dr. Hampton to talk about how to get that. But the intent would be to provide every classroom with a resource to hold all of the devices in the classroom. Office spaces as well, right? So there was an example of a cell phone locker for like the new PPS office at West Campus where students could put it to hold everything in the office.
And I believe, Ms. Tolbert, you've implemented in your class.
Yes, I have the cell phone pouch. It's not optional, and they've been doing it since the first day of school.
And you have enough room for all of them?
Yeah, the pouch holds 35 cell phones, and I have the most students I have is 33. The only class that doesn't use it is my advisory. I have a junior advisory. If I had a freshman advisory, they would be using it.
Okay. Just want to make sure that when we do implement it, there's room for everybody's.
Calculator caddies is probably the most popular use. It has 35. Teachers used to have them for calculators, but teachers I've observed that also use it, I did not observe Julia's class, who have had success over the last couple of years. 35, the students come in, they either drop it in immediately, or as soon as attendance is done, the teacher says, okay, cell phone's up. They get up voluntarily, they get up without cause, put it away, and pick it up on the way out the door.
Is there going to be, what if a kid does not put their cell phone in there or says they don't have it? Like, are we going to push on that? And will they be allowed to use restrooms if their cell phones aren't, like, in there? I just kind of want to know, too, that, like, it's going to be like that follow-through.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Anytime there's a rule and you're working with teenagers, they're going to try to find a way around it, right? So I think that by making it a common expectation, by providing every classroom with that resource to have it when a student's not following those. It would be like any other behavior that we see in a classroom, where if it rises to the level the teacher feels like they need support, then the deans would support them on that, right? It also says that we didn't read through every aspect of those slides, but it does talk about when students go to the restroom, they leave their phone, right? They don't take it with them. So those are all things that they're in there that should help with most students. We know that we're going to have some students who we still have to work with to address behaviors when they happen. And the intent would be by adopting just a common expectations for all staff, it's easier than in the dean's office when referred to have those common expectations and support that expectation.
One more thing, I just want to bring this up. Is there any way to separate headgear from this vote at all?
Yeah, the board.
Okay, because, yeah.
So that's been done before, so, the board can amend anything, or we can, set up the agenda to have them be separate action items that the board takes, out, and so we could work on that absolutely.
I like the
together.
idea of the separate agenda items, because there's some aspects that,
Sure.
in exactly, it will be provided exactly how it's going to be worded in the handbook too?
Yeah.
Okay.
I also need to, I think we need to, this is my third year on the board, and every year headgear is brought up by this committee who works really hard on it. So I would like the board to really consider that they're in the buildings and they're saying that this is something that they're recommending. And I understand that the board votes on it, but, I just think that how many times do they have to keep asking us?
We didn't say we were
I'm just saying.
Well, I'm just saying, I wanted, I want their work to be acknowledged and to actually pass, and I just feel like some folks are not going to pass the whole thing.
The handbook and the policy changes are all in the board packet, though, for first read. That's what is absolutely in there. And then we can separate the agenda items by memo. What I'll do is I'll work with Dr. Markham and Mr. Locke to organize them, and we can send them out prior to the board packet so that you can look through everything, but we can organize them. There really would be 3 separate recommendations: undesignated medicines, dress code, and cell phones. Or electronics.
Yeah.
I should say, electronics.
I mean, the meta classes are an important part of that, right? So like as you read through, every recommendation there's multiple parts to it, right? So I would just hope that as you review it, think about those parts separately if you can, because you can always amend and change it.
Yep.
We've done that before, right?
Yep.
Where we presented things and you all have changed them, and oftentimes that works out well, right? I think about changing language from disrespect to noncompliance. That's been a positive change for us, and that's something that came through this conversation, right? So, I think that's important because those meta classes really are becoming more prevalent. Dean Challey had a pair a week ago, and just what they do is, it's scary, right? Like, they talk to you, nobody around you can hear that they're talking to you. It's crazy, and they're affordable now. So, even if we decide not to move forward with cell phones, hopefully you would consider that, because bathrooms, locker rooms, having cameras, like, it's just problematic, right? Scary time to exist in society.
Tony Stark, real life.
Right, absolutely.
Could we also separate, I know, like, you guys, there's part of the cell phone aspect that I agree with the putting it in. I personally don't agree with, like, putting it all on the teachers. So if there is a part to vote on, like, to put in the bins and stuff like that, but like those concepts.
That's really procedural,
Okay.
so if the board were to direct, I think the board can always direct me on a procedure of any kind. So if the majority of the board feels strongly on that, that could be a that could be an approval.
For what it's worth, my recommendation would be, if that's the way you want to go, where you want it to automatically be a referral, instead of calling it a level 1 behavior, call it a level 2 behavior, because level 2 behavior is a referral to the dean, right? That's the cleanest way probably to do that, if you want to. Now, as we talk about, because we're here talking about these things, and when you look at them independently, it's very easy to say that we don't want the teachers to address it, but when it's referred to the dean, now we're talking discipline, right? So we're talking detentions, ISSs, out-of-school suspensions, and those are things that we want to avoid. I think you all want to avoid them as much as possible too. So you just have to be aware of that if we make it a level 2, that's where it heads. Same thing with, when we enforce the head covering rule now, that's what it leads to, right? We have suspensions for headwear because students just refuse to take head coverings off. So like it's that balance, right? And a lot of times the deans are and the social workers are able to work with students and avoid that, right? They come up with a plan to support the student, but sometimes students just refuse, right? So all of that can be weighed, but if you were gonna try to take that out of the classroom, that would be the easy way to do it, is to make it a level 2.
I want to be as fair and objective as possible when it comes to the headgear. Do we have any data to support one way or the other? Like, what's the data with the headgear and the consequences and suspensions?
Yeah, we can
So
get that for
if you can, yes, I would appreciate that so I can take a look at it and make a determination.
Absolutely. Now, it's not necessarily, it falls under hallway conduct, right? So it's lumped in with a lot of other behaviors, but we can definitely have a breakdown for you. I'll send that through Dr. Guzman.
Okay, thank you.
And I appreciate that question so much, and I know we have different ideas on this particular subject. Do we have any data regarding like why a child, if they're getting in trouble for the do-rag or the bonnet, would we have any even anecdotal data as to why they chose to wear it that day? That's one of my concerns.
I mean, talking to the deans who intervene with it, I see them nodding back there. I mean, a lot of it's about like, I'm not comfortable with how my hair looks today. It's all anecdotal though. So like there's no quantitative data as to why students wear head coverings. Sometimes it's the look, sometimes it's anxiety, right? A lot of kids with hoods, it's anxiety. There's a lot of reasons. We've done some, I think not recently, but over my past couple of years, we've done surveys. I'm looking at Shally. I think we've asked kids, but it's just a range, right?
I have another. I have another question based off what you just said with the level 1 versus level 2. With the cell phones, can it still be labeled a level 1? But this is what because it is, a minor behavior, but at the same time, it's affecting learning where it's level 1, but we automatically, and it doesn't have to be a referral. Phone could be taken away and things like that where there is consequences, but it's not necessarily like automatic referral. Like, do we have to label it level 1, level 2? And it's just kind of like this in between,
The level
part.
1, and I'm gonna go off of the training I just had because there's so many experts. So if I'm wrong with this, you guys need to call me out on it, okay? But through the training that I sat in, when they were talking about the different level 1s, it was talking about how teachers respond to things. And so for level 1, it's things you can handle within your classroom without involving additional support. And there were examples on there. Then we get to level 2 and you're asking for support because it's either more severe or it's pervasive where it's happening. Did I get it right?
Severe,
Okay, good. Where it's happening every day. So the purpose of that was to really differentiate, what the teacher is, and empowering teachers to handle that too for building community. It's really aligned to what we've been doing with restorative justice and practices. So that's where the training was. So level 1 was really more about this is still a problem. It's documented in the PLP log. Sometimes there's a call home, but the teacher is taking care of it and it's not going someplace else. It's okay if it needs to go someplace else, but at that point, it's either more severe or it's pervasive because the student's not being compliant. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think, Ms. Lynn, you're asking though about just if a student can't control it, just remove the cell phone from the equation, right?
Yeah.
And I think that, I don't know, that's something where we'd probably have to work with the district's attorney and the bargaining, because which bargaining unit employees are gonna confiscate the cell phone and take responsibility for it. So there's, I know that there are schools who do it, right? So
Yeah,
it's just
mine does.
Right, it's
Yeah.
just a matter of if that's the direction the board would want to go, we just have to work through those procedures.
I just know I personally do not have to deal with cell phones. We also have pockets, and my kids don't put them in there, but I also don't see cell phones. Like, the expectation is you put them in there, but we can't force them to, so then they don't put them in there because we can't force them to. But then at the same time, it's not a problem because they know if it's out, they're going to be called and it'll be immediately taken away. We don't actually take it away from students. The students walk it down to the dean's office, and I don't know exactly what happens in the dean's office. Either the students put it somewhere, then it can then be picked up after school, or the parent can then pick it up, but it actually never goes into the bargaining. I mean, we could make it to the point where it never actually goes into any bargaining person's hands, where it would be the kid puts it in there. And
yeah, we would just have to work through it, right?
Yeah.
So like, I think the important thing that came from this working group is that, you know, we had that cell phone committee. I think it was like it was pre-COVID, right?
Yeah, no, it was
or
right when I
after
got on. It was
COVID?
right after COVID.
Yeah, okay. So it's been a couple years. I think there's a strong desire from staff and that's supported by the student feedback to try something different. So whatever that looks like, whatever direction you all decide to go, we will make it happen. We just think it's important to take some sort of step to address cell phones.
I just see it as, I don't see it as a level 1 or level 2. It's like it's an addiction issue. And you're asking teachers to handle something that's an addiction in the classroom, you know, and it does interfere with learning. Whereas if you're worried about bargaining units, there's ways to prevent that. But that consequence, it doesn't have to be a referral. That consequence is automatic. The kids aren't having their cell phone with them. Like, to me, I don't see it has to be necessarily labeled into that level 1 or level 2 criteria. But we'll vote on it. That's just kind of how I was wanting to see the thought process.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you, Christine.
And if that's the direction we go, you know that we're not above borrowing from any other school districts, including
No.
Bolingbrook. So.
Like I said, I don't know what happens beyond at the dean's office. I just know as a teacher what happens and the support I feel as a teacher, not having to deal with that issue on my own.
Very fair.
Any other questions for the committee? So to summarize, we're going to work on 3 separate recommendations, memos for discipline, and then we'll get those out to the board. And then a breakdown of headgear data prior to the next board meeting so you can have that information. And then I just want to say thank you to the committee and for presenting tonight. Thank you.
And to the subcommittee people, too.
Yes, thank you.
All right, our next presentation is Educational Services Update, our multilingual services program update. This is associated with with Action Plan 2.2, and I'm not going to take any more of their thunder, but we have some representatives from the team here this evening.
Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Edgar Palacios, I'm the Director of Multilingual Services. With me today is Susie Montano, Director of English Language Arts. And yeah, we are here representing Strategy 2.2, and we're excited about the updates that we have since we last met. We have been tasked with supporting the work that started prior to my arrival in the district, and that is to create a system and a program that is fully welcoming and supportive of our students. Of the 1,500 students that you see on there, it's important to note that 167 are newcomer students, and those are students that have entered our system and our school and our country in the last 3 years. 253 are those dually identified, and the reason why I put those numbers there is because a lot of our program focuses on creating an environment for all the students. So you see that the large majority of those students are what we would call our sequential ELs. Those are students that have learned a language at home and that have learned English during their school system. And those are our long-term ELs. So when we are talking about revising our assessments and our curriculum, which has been a big part of our focus this year, we are constantly aware of the needs of all those 1,500 students that we're highlighting for you. One of the examples that we have on there is the creation of our newcomer literacy course, which is basically the creation of teachers and contextualizing literacy in the focus of CT, which is the orientation class. But a large part of the work that we do with curriculum work is also centered around the literacy framework that was adopted by the state of Illinois, which basically states in order for students to get to the mastery of the content in literacy, they need to have a strong oracy in those classrooms. And when we are redesigning any curriculum or redesigning any assessment, we want to make sure that our teachers are fully supported as well. And so one of the big thank yous that we have for the board is that this year we added an additional instructional coach at West to be able to support both campuses. Because we know that when we talk about tips and strategies for our teachers, they need that partnership in order to make things like TPR, total physical response, or word walls, or sentence stems come to life and increase the engagement of students. We need that partnership. The partnership where they have the ability to lean on an instructional coach to bring those strategies to life. In addition to that partnership, we have also continued the SIOP work with our staff, specifically our new staff. I believe this is the 7th year that we have provided SIOP. We are also working with our co-teachers. We have co-teaching models at both campuses. And so we started the work of redesigning some of the assessments and kind of looking at the best practices that we could have when you have 2 teachers in the classroom. We are also partnered with University of St. Francis. For those teachers, I believe we have 14 teachers now that are continuing their education and getting their ESL endorsement. We are in year 1 of a 2-year cohort with our CTE teachers. We want to make sure that they are aware of the variety of learners that they have coming to them. And we want them to be aware at least of how important it is for that continuum of learning that our students have. And when they enter those courses, we want to make sure that they are well prepared. So that's in year 1 of 2. And obviously, any time that we do work with our teachers, we want to make sure that they see how all these initiatives are braided with our instructional norms. One of our newer initiatives too has been the placement of our students. And so, when we receive any student, whether it's from another country or from our feeder schools, we want to make sure that those students are properly placed. So having a placement criteria where we are establishing how many years they've been in the program, but also how their test results indicate where they need to be placed. And lastly, where their language proficiency is in terms of whether they are sequential or simultaneous EL or they're a newcomer, and making all of our staff and our administration aware of the needs of those students. So ensuring that we are well aware of their needs when they're entering our system. And then for the articulation process, making sure that those teachers that are receiving those students are well aware of their educational needs as well. We also know that we have students that have some credit recovery needs. And so Subject.com is a platform that we are in year 2, and we are instituting that for our students that have come with some gaps from other countries, but also from our current students who need a few extra credits in any of the content areas. Here's another addition to this strategy as well. We have added an additional social worker at West Campus. They have been phenomenal in creating identical programs for our students, but connections also for our families. They offer individual attention to our students, but also groups. And they've been phenomenal with the connections to our parents too, and just bridging that language gap with them. And lastly, this is another continuation from last year, and that is our Alianza de Padres Comprometidos a la Educación. We are in year 2, and we've been pretty successful with bringing families in, just highlighting all the different needs that we have in our programs, but also letting them see all the resources that we have as well. We have had them tour our facilities, see where our social workers, our cool down rooms are at work, some of our new additions, like the culinary labs. And that has generated a lot of trust between the staff and our families. So we continue to provide those opportunities for them because they've been extremely successful. And we know that in order for them to feel like this is their home, we need to continue having those connections. We also want to thank to those of you that were part of our newcomer parent night and our Nexus Award night. I know that our staff is very appreciative and our parents are appreciative of your attendance as well. So we are really excited about the progress of this program, and we hope to continue these initiatives in the years to come. Questions?
I just want to say, go ahead. Thank you to all the staff that's part of that, because I know it's the teachers, it's Margie, it's just the entire district comes together for everything from the family nights to the award ceremonies and their recognition. And it's very well received. People talk about them all the time. So thank you for all your work.
Thank you.
And thank you to the team. I think the ILT working this year and everything, I know that has been a major focus too. And thank you to the board. I know this was highlighted, but having the same structure at both campuses, we were able to pilot a lot at Central through the Title 1003 grant, but seeing the support was very helpful, and then being able to do that at West with our growing numbers. So thank you to the team and their leadership, and I look forward to what we accomplish in the future. So, thank you.
Thank you.
The last part of the superintendent's report is the winter credit recovery report. That's an annual report each year. Mrs. McDonald is happy to answer any questions if the board has any, but as you can see, continued success that is aiding students to be more successful. As we shared earlier, we have seen, and I shared the same data with staff at the beginning of the year, that students the next year from the credit recovery are showing that they're successful at a higher percentage rate in their classes. So we're just happy we're able to continue this initiative, but again, happy to answer any questions.
I'm just double checking. So they just retake a test or two, right?
It could be, yes.
It depends. So like say for English, if I have a missing, like with English, it could be there's only 3 papers for the semester and they have 1 paper missing. So they may spend that time, obviously that 1 paper missing would cause them to not pass the class. They would come in and work with an English teacher to complete that missing assessment. For math, they have recommended modules within IXL based on what the student has missed. For math, most students spent 4 entire days going through the modules, so that way then they're covering their deficiencies from their assessments, but it then helps them get ready for second semester. Same with biology. It's usually missing assessments or labs.
And to your point, it's really geared for kids that are within like that 10 percentage points
15 to 59%.
of about to pass. So it is not for students that have a very low amount mastered before that, but they spend the 4 days. So yes, 1 or 2 assessments or maybe a unit, depending on the class. It's for more. It's not for the significant deficiencies. That's what summer school or the GAP program, the sophomore year, would be for. Did we answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
And the only reason I asked is because I had this idea this year where I'm working is if we can catch the kids before it did it and run these programs like the week or 2 before finals, so that way they can run them after school, have the rest. It was just kind of something I had thought, again, is trying to be proactive versus that
And
reactive.
I will say, many of our teachers, if not most of our teachers, are already doing like those remediations for unit. That's part of the plan too. So they're doing those types of things too. And then this is identifying. And that's where it's like all hands on deck, and the curriculum directors, as soon as grades are coming in, they're making the phone
Okay.
calls. So a lot of that has already
Okay.
occurred too. This is where it didn't work, or the kids didn't do that final unit,
Okay.
where it's that extension of the semester.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
yep, thank you. That concludes superintendent reports.
All right, we'll move on to action items. Start with action item A, Action Plan 2-1, Administrative Structure Recommendations. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Second.
We have discussion.
We're the administrative team, looking at this being an extension of Action Plan 2.1, where annually we really look at how are we most effective or efficient moving forward. And so that is where this recommendation comes from, is our agreement to make sure we're looking at that at an annual basis to support staff.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mrs. Lynn?
Yes.
Mrs. Guerrero-Namera?
Yes.
Dr. Huntington?
Yes.
Mrs. Stiff?
Yes.
Motion passes on to action item B, agreement between Joliet Township High School District 204 and Joliet Township High School's Council 204 of American Federation of Teachers Local 604. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
I just want to say thank you to our union leadership. I also, we had board members that were part of the negotiation team. The work, I think, was exceptional. The product is exceptional, and I could not be more excited to see how the school day changes, and the things written into the contract, move us and propel us to the next level. So I just want to thank everybody who is involved with their hard work, because this is not easy work, but it's necessary, and we're very appreciative of our union leadership.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Stiff?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mrs. Lynn?
Yes.
Mrs. Guerrero-Namera?
Yes.
Dr. Huntington?
Yes.
Motion passes on to action item C, School Maintenance Project Grant. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
I'll second it.
Discussion?
Yes, the Illinois State Board of Education released revenue for the Maintenance Project Grant Program for this fiscal year. It's a $50,000 matching grant. We are determining to utilize those grants to abate and remediate and restore 4 classrooms at the central campus.
Nice. Like it. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Stiff?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mrs. Lynn?
Yes.
Mrs. Guerrero-Namera?
Yes.
Dr. Huntington?
Yes.
Motion passes on to action item D, Disposal of Equipment. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Dr. Huntington?
Yes.
Mrs. Stiff?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mrs. Lynn?
Yes.
Mrs. Guerrero-Namera?
Yes.
Motion passes on to action item D, donations. No, E. I believe I said D, but it is action item E.
Oh.
Donations. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Second.
Yes. Yes, I would just like to, first of all, thank everybody that made donations to our Joliet West Annual Cookie Wars, especially Culver's, Mr. Sub, Duncan, Sugar and Spice, and Cheesecakes by James, and then the MLK Day of Service, which we are very sad had to be canceled or delayed. So we want to thank JJC's, Carly Ringo, Harris Casino and Hotel. I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody because I didn't write all this down because I thought my computer would not let me down. And we want to thank, there's one other person for the cookbook donation to Joliet West. Oh, one second.
Don Dusick?
Duger.
I'm sorry.
Yes. Can you say his name again, please?
Don Duger.
Yes, thank you very much for the donations. We appreciate you.
Absolutely. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Guerrero-Namera?
Yes.
Dr. Huntington?
Yes.
Mrs. Stiff?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mrs. Lynn?
Yes.
Motion passes on to action item F, street dedication approval. Do we have a motion to approve?
Amen. Second. I'm excited.
Any discussion?
I just, this doesn't mean anything's final. This is just the one next step to conclude or to help conclude the finalization with the city. I talked to Ms. Clark. She is very appreciative of, you know, looking at this as an option. Obviously, I shared that there's no concerns that we have. I think that it's the best place possible. Also, if and when this is approved, we'll definitely have an announcement for that.
All right, any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Lynn?
Yes.
Mrs. Guerrero-Namir?
Yes.
Dr. Huntington?
Yes.
Mrs. Stiff?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes, motion passes. On to action item G, subsection 1 through 33. To approve the second reading of these policies.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Any discussion?
There's a lot of them.
That's right. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Lynn?
Yes.
Mrs. Guerrero-Namir?
Yes.
Dr. Huntington?
Yes.
Mrs. Stiff?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes, motion passes on to action item H, second reading of policies, 5-year review, grading and promotion. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mrs. Lynn?
Yes.
Mrs. Guerrero-Namir?
Yes.
Dr. Huntington?
Yes.
Mrs. Stiff?
Yes.
Motion passes. Action item I, second reading of policy rewritten 7150, agency and law enforcement requests. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Stiff?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mrs. Lynn?
Yes.
Mrs. Guerrero-Namir?
Yes.
Dr. Huntington?
Yes.
Motion passes. Action item J, personnel reports, subsection 1 through 11. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Stiff?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mrs. Lynn?
Yes.
Mrs. Guerrero-Namir?
Yes.
Dr. Huntington?
Yes.
Motion passes. I will pass it on down for action items K and L for student discipline recommendation, approval of exclusion from district property to Ms. Stiff.
Action item K. After receiving and deliberating the information contained in the hearing officer's report, the Board of Education is charged with deciding, 1, whether removing the child from his or her learning environment is in the best interest of the school. 2, what the rationale is for specific duration of the recommended expulsion. 3, whether all appropriate and available behavioral and disciplinary interventions were exhausted. And 4, whether the continued presence in school would either A, pose a threat to the safety of other students, staff, or members of the school community, or B, substantially disrupt, impede, or interfere with the operation of the school. The Board of Education must then convene into public session to formally vote on the motion to expel if the expulsion is the consensus arrived at during executive session. Case number C252613 is being recommended for expulsion until January 2027 with a placement at Lincoln School.
I second that motion. Roll call, please.
Dr. Huntington?
Yes.
Mrs. Stiff?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mrs. Lynn?
Yes.
Mrs. Guerrero-Namir?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Action item L. After receiving and deliberating the information contained in the hearing officer's report, the Board of Education is charged with deciding, 1, whether or not a policy was violated, 2, whether removing the person from all Joliet Township High School properties was in the best interest of the school, 3, whether the specific duration of the recommended no trespassing was appropriate or other discipline should have been applied. 4, whether the continued presence on District 204 property would either A, pose a threat to the safety of other students, staff, or members of the school community, or B, substantially disrupt, impede, or interfere with the operation of the school. The Board of Education must then convene into public session to formally vote on the motion to no trespassing if no trespassing is the consensus arrived at during executive session. The case for Mercer Sammy, no trespassing upheld, no trespassing upheld.
I second the motion. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Guerrero Numer?
Yes.
Dr. Huntington?
Yes.
Mrs. Stipp?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mrs. Lynn?
Yes.
Motion passes. That concludes action items. Move on to unfinished business. Does anybody have unfinished business? Hearing none, we'll move to new business. We have our first reading of a recommendation of our student behavior and recommended handbook changes. I think we went through that pretty thoroughly, unless anybody has anything else.
No.
So we'll move on to board reports. Does anybody have any board reports?
I've attended a couple basketball games. It was a great game. Joliet West against Bolingbrook High School went into overtime. It was quite the game. I was trying to cheer for both teams, but I was told by my daughter I was not allowed to. So it was a great game. Thank you to the coaches and, not just basketball, but all the coaches and the west side was very crowded too. So for the fans to come out and support all of our kids.
Anybody else have a board report?
Yes, I would just like to thank Dr. Carla Guzman and everyone that attended the African American Business Association MLK brunch and celebration. Dr. Guzman had a great panel with her, including Jesse Jackson Jr., and she held her own. And one of the things that I had shared is Dr. Guzman inspired the crowd when she asked all of the JTHS partners in the room, from staff and students, board members, elected officials, coaches, et cetera, that were there, to stand. And then, after everybody stood, she said, all right, well, if you didn't stand, that means you're not a partner yet. So you still have the opportunity to find a way to partner, because our students do better when our community gets involved and supports them. And everybody was kind of talking about that afterward. Just, it was a moment, a call to action, which I think is what MLK Day should be about. With that said, I just want to read a quote, actually, that was said by his wife, Coretta Scott King. Poverty is violence. Starving a child is violence. Suppressing a culture is violence. Neglecting school children is violence. Discrimination against a working person is violence. Ghetto housing is violence. Ignoring medical needs is violence. Contempt for equality is violence. And even the lack of willpower to help humanity is a sick and sinister form of violence. Thank you.
I'm just going to correct Lorraine. It was Jonathan Jackson.
I apologize for that. You know what, we talked so much about Jesse Jackson during that thing, which was also really exciting. And then we even said a prayer together collectively for him. So I think that's where that came from. But yeah, thank you for that. Sorry about that.
Anybody else?
It was a great event. I attended as well.
She actually, she did the introduction, and the welcome, and we appreciated that too. And she was also giving inspiring words and quotes, so I apologize for leaving that out too.
Nice.
No more board reports. I just want to, we start off the semester with a 2-day institute. I was able to go to multiple sessions, so I just want to thank everyone involved in planning that and implementing that. It was a great way to start off the year. I also want to thank the majority of the board was able to attend our ribbon cutting at Joliet West. So I want to congratulate and thank our buildings and grounds and our construction management team, because it's a big part, and if anyone hasn't seen the amazing space, you should. It is beautiful. I know that we have so many more things that we'll be celebrating in the next couple years and in the future, but it was truly amazing. So thank you to our staff and our partners that made that happen. Also, I It was an awesome event by ABBA. I'm very thankful that they asked me to be on the panel. I'm also very thankful for our board members who were able to attend and our staff members. And we even had one of our CEO students, and I made him stand too. And he may or may not be mad at me about that. But he came, and it was so wonderful for a student to be able to experience that, and he sat at our table, and it was wonderful. Lastly, I want to thank Christine and the MLK Day of Service team and the committee. Also, ABBA, I know it didn't come to fruition, but that doesn't mean there wasn't a lot of planning. I still saw that some independent projects occurred yesterday, so that was wonderful. It is really unfortunate that the weather does not comply with us. And so we will be talking about that, but that doesn't mean that things aren't due, so thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Guzman, can you just, we have an event coming up at the end of January, correct?
Yes, so we have our State of the District on the 29th or the 28th?
It's the 29th.
The 29th.
Thursday.
So it's Thursday, the 29th. It is at Joliet West this year. The presentation begins at 6. It's 6 to 7:30. We will be looking at incorporating some of the things that didn't happen on MLK. We had to do that a couple of years ago, so we will do that as part of that celebration too. But also there are some networking and some vendors and things that begins at 5 o'clock. That's really a great opportunity for all of our community, our partners, our students, our staff, our families, to come and hear just where we are at as a district. Some of the topics that will be discussed are our finances, safety and security, where we're at with our master plan, academic progress, obviously school report card. We also, and my most fun part of the evening, we have 6 students slated to share their experiences, 2 from West, 2 from Central, and 2 from Pathways. So it's an outstanding event. We're very excited about it. So thank you for the reminder, and all are welcome.
Have our freshman night tomorrow.
We do. We are so busy. And thank you, Board of Education, for knowing all of our events that are coming up. I appreciate that.
Keep up. We got a lot.
We do have a lot. So from 6 to 8 at both campuses tomorrow is our freshman preview night. And so it's an opportunity, and we have worked with our sender schools to get the information out. It's been on social media. But this is an opportunity to come in, learn about how to transition effectively into high school. Also, and I think a really important piece is how you can get engaged in the various athletics and activities and opportunities. So that is very exciting too. So both campuses tomorrow, 6 to 8 p.m. What else am I forgetting, Board of Education?
We'll let you go
on. Okay. No, I appreciate the reminders.
Do we need to announce committee of the whole?
Committee of the whole is next week, but most of it probably is
be
a closed session,
yeah.
so.
Just in case anybody was interested.
Yes, absolutely. And all of the board meetings are posted in advance if anyone would like to take a look at the date. I know we have a lot of people here right now, but streaming wise, there's people on. And then too, I just thought it was so great that all of the students that were recognized were basically here tonight. So that was very excited. I do think all,
single certificate left, so.
so that's exciting. So thank you.
All right, now for the most important part, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
We'll do it by unanimous consent, hearing no dissent. Meeting's adjourned.